The opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect the views of the Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Connecting with Kim here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. I'm your host, Kim Droege. We're so glad you joined us today because we have a phenomenal episode coming up, and it's a great finish to season 4. And you will notice that I am sitting in a different chair than I normally sit in. And in a few minutes, you will know why, because of my special guest that I have today. So before we get started, we want you to follow our Instagram, Facebook, and X account, where you will find all the information about the show, about the guest, about the topic, and more importantly, my on-air wardrobe, which is supplied by the Spring of Tampa Bay, who provides safe spaces and empowering services for survivors of domestic violence and their children, and they've been doing a great job, almost 50 years now. And I want you to shop at the boutique, which is now located at 4415 West Osborne in Tampa, very near the airport, just off Air Cargo Road. And that will make sense when I introduce my guest. So please go there because everything you buy at the thrift and the boutique supports their mission. And you can tell from what I wear on look at all this bling. Is this good? What I wear in my show that they do a really great job. So I am so excited about my guest today. His name is Michael Stevens, and he is the CEO of Tampa International Airport. And he's a first-time guest on CWK. And so we want to welcome him. Thank you, Michael, for joining us today.
Kim, thank you. I'm delighted to be here and sitting down and having a chat with you today.
Yeah, we're going to connect.
Yeah.
We connected before because we had the pleasure of working together on Tampa Tiger Bay earlier this year, and that went very, very well. And you were brand new. I mean, literally brand new on the job.
Days on the job.
Days.
Yeah.
So I like to start the show the same way every time. I like my guests to share as much of their life journey as they feel comfortable with, because you just never know when somebody out there has shared something in common with you, and we want them to stay and listen to the rest of the conversation.
Yeah. Well, I'll start very briefly by saying, like I often do when this question is asked, if you would have asked me 20 years ago, would I ever be here as the CEO of America's favorite airport, I probably would have laughed at you. It would have been something that was, in my mind, probably impossible. I grew up in a very difficult background in many respects. In fact, when I graduated high school, I graduated with barely a graduating GPA, right? And someone said, hey, I really see some opportunity and talent in you. Why aren't you doing better? So in the environment where I grew up, you didn't really have a lot of good role models, and this person just took an interest in me and mentored me a little bit, and decided to go ahead and go into the military, the Air Force, where I was an air traffic controller. And that kind of put me on the path of starting to kind of get focused and locked in. And then eventually I was able to go on to graduate college and then law school and grad school. When I was, interestingly enough, in the Air Force, I was an air traffic controller. And that was the first time going to basic training that I had ever flown on an airplane in my entire life. So I was almost 19 years old, 18 and some change. So I say all that to say, from a kid who had never even flown on his first aircraft until I'm going to basic training, and then became an air traffic controller to wind up running America's favorite airport, it just tells me when someone sees something in you and they invest in you and you start to see things and believe in yourself and put in the work, that anything is possible. So that is why I'm here with you, a long journey in a very, very short story. So I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I think you're a testament to the fact that one person can make a huge difference in the life of one individual.
So true.
That's a really wonderful testament. So listening to you talk, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I know what the first question is I'm going to ask him. Why do you think TPA, Tampa International, is America's favorite airport?
You know, we're very intentional, and it's just like kind of when I, kind of started with that story, being intentional in what we do, how we live our lives, how we run our businesses, whatever it is, makes a difference. Every airport, major airport in this country has planes, they have terminals, they have tarmacs, they have runways, right? But when you come to Tampa International, there's something special. We look at it from the traveler standpoint. We look at it from the people standpoint who work there, who make it possible. We have about 10,500 people that work on that campus. About 700 of them are Aviation Authority employees. The rest of them are TSA, CBP, people that work at the ticket agents, the baristas, all those types of things. And so what we do at Tampa International that makes us special is we focus on the human experience. How efficiently do you get through that airport? How friendly are you treated? You notice when you come to Tampa International, if you're standing in the middle of the terminal, generally speaking, you don't have to go and ask somebody for directions. People will come up to you. We make sure that that is a part of our DNA. We want people to feel that they're in a place that sees them, that understands that travel can be very stressful at times.
It is very
right?
stressful.
And so how do we decompress them and make them feel better? I think that that's the special thing. If I had to boil it down to one word, it's our people. It's our people.
Well, a lot of people will say it's their people, but I mean, there is something special about TPA, and I think it's been that way for a while. I'm not saying it hasn't improved, but I think my parents moved here in 1989 to Florida, and TPA already had a great reputation at that time, but I think it's just increased since then. So I think that's lovely that you're giving all the credit to the people. I mean, because they really do make a difference. I know you were on the staff at TPA. You were part of the management leadership team before you took over as CEO. So, and you took over from somebody kind of legendary.
Yes.
He had a big presence in Tampa. What would you say was your biggest surprise when you took over?
You're right. I've been there for literally just last month was my 10-year anniversary, right? So I had been there. I'd gotten an opportunity to work on a lot of different things. Joe is a mentor, a friend, my predecessor. So we were there working hand in hand, me and the rest of the executive team, kind of helping Joe launch his vision, international flights, building out the physical footprint, all of those types of things. What I think was the most surprising thing, as much as I realized how impactful TPO is to this region, sitting in the role as CEO, I just didn't realize how broad and loved this organization is. I'll give you a primary example. I'm in CVS, random weekend. I have on a pair of jeans and a Wu-Tang Clan t-shirt, something like that, right? And some guys is looking at me, he's like, I know you. I was like, yeah, from where? Like the gym, maybe something. He's like, Tampa International Airport. He's like, I love that airport. I just talked to my wife about you in this airport. The point that I'm making is I never expected just the impact that this particular role has in driving both the economy of this region. We produce billions of dollars, facilitate billions of dollars in economic impact, but also, again, going back to the people, how it impacts people's lives and they have a personal connection. And so when you're not, in the main role, you hear it, you know it, you understand it. But when you're out there as the CEO of the organization, you hear it every single day, multiple times a day. And, I take a lot of pride, and I'm really, really, incredibly gratified and thankful to be in this role.
Well, I'm happy for you. And because I've often felt that watching the role from some distance is not the same as stepping into the role.
That's so
it
true.
always changes completely. And your perspective changes completely. Even though you think, oh, wow, I know what they do. Yeah. So in the short time that you've been CEO of TPA, what programs or what changes have you instituted?
So one of the things
that you want to talk about.
Yeah, of course. When I went into the role, I had this sense and feel that there are not a whole bunch of wholesale changes that we needed to make. We're a great organization, well run, but I needed to make sure that we take it to the next level. So I had 5 pillars that I introduced to my leadership team, and then to the entire organization. The first one is focusing on our people. How do we develop our folks? How do we give them an additional elevated sense of purpose? How do we unleash them so they can bring their ideas to the table? I firmly believe that all ideas, all innovation does not flow from the C-suite and from the top. It's from the ground up. It's from the center up often. So that's one thing. The other thing is, how do we become better stewards of our resources? How do we generate additional revenues? And how do we make sure that we're utilizing the revenues that we have in the best way to benefit the people that we serve? The third thing is that we were focusing on creating wow moments, like these guest experiences that you can come through. Recently, we just had Christmas movie night in the event space for kids, popcorn, all kinds of different things. Fourth is focusing on our community. Right? How do we continue to elevate the experience for this community? We're growing. Tampa Bay and this region is growing at an amazing clip. So how do we make sure that we stay ahead of that? And then last but not least, innovation. Just focusing on how do we use technology, AI, all those things to make it all work better.
I think that, like Phoebe, nobody would forgive me if I didn't talk about Phoebe. Like something like that has been, what a huge impact.
Amazing. You know, I remember when we were going through our art program for the entire airport for, a lot of the new terminal expansion that we did. The person who runs our art program, Chris Menner, he brings all these different concepts to the table, the exec team, and then we see this big giant flamingo, and I'm like, if I'm going to cop to it, I'm like, come on, man, are you serious? A big flamingo? That's what we're doing? How are we going to be like Florida with the big giant? I've apologized to him many times over. I've eaten my words, and at this point, Phoebe is such a vibe, right, that I couldn't imagine Phoebe not being in the terminal. So
there's no one who goes through TPA that doesn't have their picture taken with Phoebe.
Not.
And post.
Yes.
She's everywhere.
Everywhere, internationally, nationally, everywhere. Phoebe is a thing.
Everybody knows Phoebe.
Yes.
First of all, what a testament that you have a team and a person that would have that idea and would feel comfortable enough to say, yeah, we need to do this. And then you do it, and it's such a huge success.
Again, when we talk about what makes TPA special, going back to that first thing, people. And one of my things is, how do you give people psychological safety and unleash their creativity where they can bring an idea forward that, generally speaking, people are like, yeah, no, but they feel comfortable in bringing it forward. That's how you create magic. That's
Absolutely.
Really how you do it.
But leadership, good leadership, is what fosters that. And that's important to note. I would imagine that turnover rate is also something that would have a big impact on you. You mentioned 10,000 plus, and I thought, I wonder what their turnover rate is. Instilling that in people and getting that camaraderie and that teamwork and everything that you package together to make it successful, turnover really impacts that.
It does, and one of the things we focus on is making sure, certainly the Aviation Authority employees, that we invest in them, that we try to pay good wages. We are generally ahead of the market in the industry in terms of the wages that we pay. And not just for airports, right? You think about it, if I have an accountant or someone that works in finance or payroll, they're competing against every other business out there. So, what you pay them, but more importantly, how you treat them in terms of benefits, in terms of giving them things that invest in them, growth opportunities, educational, great healthcare, all of those things. We do all that with the strategy of making sure that we keep our people. It is so much more expensive and disruptive to an organization, as you know, to go out and hire and replace someone than it is to keep somebody in the seat in the first place.
Exactly, and it's an art. And in my opinion, that to keep that turnover rate low and keep those people motivated to stay there. So if you're just joining me on Connecting with Kim just now, my guest in the chair is Michael Stevens, who is the CEO of Tampa International Airport, the most loved airport in the United States. I don't know, maybe the world. I don't know. You have to compete against Changi in Singapore because they consistently take the top spot internationally. But he's in the chair. We're so grateful to have him today. So, you mentioned the 5 pillars, and are there, as we look out 12 months or so, what are some other initiatives that you're hoping and looking to implement?
So in the next 12 months, again, one of the things that we're looking at is how do we create even better experiences for the people that come through there. So again, these wow moments. Tampa International has often been kind of construed or considered as, Tampa Bay's living room. People used to come out there for everything from like plane watching to, prom, CK. We have people that get, propose and want to get married out there. So we want to keep that sense of this is your airport. This is not just the transit hub that you go in and out of, but you can stay connected. And when you come here, just like Tampa in this Tampa Bay region is elevating everything from Water Street, the gas works to Midtown, we want to elevate that experience in the airport as well, which is why you see everything from the express curbs, you see a lot of the terminal modernization, a lot of those things that we've been focusing on. So that's in the next 12 months, we're going to continue that. Another thing that we're going to do is we're preparing for Airside D, which is going to be our new kind of crown jewel airside. So our food and concessions is going to be reimagined for the entire campus, not just Airside D. So some of that work, at least RFPs and those types of things, will start happening within the next 12 months. So that's really what we're focusing on in the next 12 months. And beyond that, how do we continue to build our campus out?
Okay, so for those folks who might be new to Hillsborough
Sure.
County, because we get a lot of new residents in Florida all the time, and the surrounding counties that TPA provides services for. Talk to us a little about Airside D, just a little bit more.
So Airside D is going to be our first airside in about 20 years. Airside C, where primarily Southwest is one of the main carriers over in Airside C. That was 20 years ago. Airside D is going to be a 16-gate international terminal. So all of the things from customs and being able to clear from all of our international flights will go through the new Airside D. It's going to have 2 lounges. It's going to have a Delta lounge and it's going to have a common use lounge. It's going to be a beautiful state-of-the-art facility. And for anybody who's flown out of Airside C, you see how big Airside C is? Mm-hmm. This is going to be twice the size.
Wow.
And 2.5 levels, right? So it's going to be an absolute phenomenal facility. Why? Is because we are growing as a region. We're expecting about 10 million more passengers to come through Tampa International in the next 10 to 12 years. So we'll go from roughly 26 million to almost 36 million passengers pretty soon.
Oh my, that is amazing.
Yeah, super exciting.
So when is Airside D scheduled to open?
Airside D will more than likely open either in the fourth quarter of 28 or the first quarter of 29. So that's what we're shooting for. If we keep our fingers crossed, latter part of 28, but more than likely 29.
Recently, there was a disruption to air travel in the United States because of government.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to call it, but we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
What kind of challenges do things like that present for you and the airport?
There are tremendous challenges. One, running an airport and the entire national and international aviation system is a really, really complex ecosystem. And so when things start to stop, in this instance, the federal government, you don't have surety with people on your TSA lines at a certain point, or your air traffic control, or your customs folks. Thankfully, at Tampa International, we have such a great relationship with our federal partners that, notwithstanding the fact that this was the longest shutdown in history, we didn't see that much disruption at all. Our controllers continue to show up for work. Our TSA folks, our CBP folks continue to show up for work. Now, some of the challenges that presents is we as a landlord, for lack of a better word, we are, even though they're not Tampa International employees, they're part of our family. They're part of our ecosystem. So we were making sure that we were coordinating meals, economic support, our friends at TICO doing things like utility abatement. It was a community effort, and a part of that is what was required to make sure that those folks knew that we saw them, that we supported them, and helped lift their spirits through this whole process.
They were part of the family.
They were part of the family.
And you weren't going to leave them.
That's right.
We weren't going to leave them behind.
That's exactly right.
You mentioned in your background that your experience as an air traffic controller in your military career. So what do you think that brought to the table when you came to TPA?
I had an understanding of how airfields operate, how airspace works, some of the challenges there. So I did that in the Air Force, but in the Army, I was also in the Army as a JAG officer. So I understood policy. Before that, I was working in transportation for HART. So I understand how transportation networks, both surface transportation, the regulatory system, air traffic, all kind of work together. So it really helped me get up to speed very quickly when I joined the airport, whether it's on the government relations side, whether it's on the federal regulatory side, human resources, you name it. Those were all areas where I had some experience. And so it really kind of flattened the learning curve that I otherwise would have had transitioning to TPA.
You and I were talking about, before we went on air, how much how much air travel has changed in, well, good golly, the last 25, 30 years. I mean, there's been substantial change. So as you look out, what would you say is the biggest challenge faced by air travel in this country?
I think the biggest challenge is the volume. We are in a growth spurt when it comes to travel, just globally, right? Back in the day, 20, 25 years ago, air travel was a luxury for folks. As I said, I took my first flight at 19, almost 19 years old, right? Now you have so much volume in the system that the infrastructure there, from the air traffic control system to the number of controllers that you have, to just the people to manage the volume, has been strained to a certain extent. And so we're playing a little bit of catch up. And that's not just a United States phenomenon. I think that's across the entire globe. And because internationally it's such a connected system, if you have a hiccup somewhere else, it creates a domino effect downrange. So that's the biggest challenge right now that I see. So, but there are a lot of efforts underway by the FAA to modernize our ATC system, to hire more controllers. Airports are modernizing to be more efficient as well.
Do you see a role for AI in any of that? Because, I mean, AI is pervasive now, and it will continue to grow and be pervasive in all of our systems in our life, in everything that we do. So do you see a role? Maybe you're using AI already. Do you see how are you using it, and what do you see the role of?
We are using AI at Tampa International right now on a number of areas. For example, predictive analytics, right? So we can analyze data trends that, the average human can't necessarily catch up with. I'll give you a primary example. In the summertime, what do we have here? A bunch of storms running, right?
Right.
So you may have weather patterns that are happening in the Northeast that all of a sudden will predictively lead to delays. So if people are flying into Orlando, but now that flight has to divert to Tampa, right?
Right.
Now all of a sudden we have to make sure we have enough gate space. We have to make sure our concessionaires are aware of those types of things so they can feed people. That even small things like the janitorial services can be ready so bathrooms can remain clean and in good repair. AI is helping us with all that, with predictive analytics. AI is helping our workforce be more efficient so their time can be utilized more effectively to the things that humans really need to be high touch on, guest relations, all of those types of things.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's extremely interesting to me, because I not the predictive analytics, that makes sense, but how you might continue to use AI as number one, AI's capability, I think I'm going to say, increases, and its pervasive increases. One thing I became aware of in a conversation with Scott, actually, our chief here, our boss at TBAE, is the art. The amount of incredible art that is on the premises of TPA. I wanted to just chat with you about that a little bit, because I think that's kind of fascinating.
It's amazing. We have an incredibly robust art program that it's not just the folks at TPA that come up with what we put in there. As I said, we have an entire team that's focused on soliciting input from the community, from the broad community of not only Tampa Bay residents, but also the artists here in this community, and even, internationally and nationally. And so we look for things that when you come into Tampa, you say, wow, that is so neat. Phoebe is a great example. Or if you go over to the Conrack, there's this beautiful, beautiful, it's a sea turtle art piece that is amazing. That's when it's lit up at night. So all of those things give people a sense of place. Again, part of the goal is air travel can be stressful. So if you're going to walk through a sterile terminal that looks like some, big box type of retail store versus something that makes you feel, decompressed, like at home, something that you can admire. That's what we want to do. So it plays a very critical role in how you experience Tampa International Airport.
So have you ever thought about, somehow focusing or highlighting all the incredible art that's located at TPA?
We do that, believe it or not. We have this thing internally that we call TPA TV. And of course, our amazing social media team. They are always...
We're going to get to that because
Yes.
I would be remiss. I'm sorry, but I would be remiss if we didn't talk about your social media because I don't know. I think it's since you took over. I'll be honest with you. Your social media has exploded, and everybody's talking about it. I mean, everybody here at our studio is talking about it. It's hysterical. They're hilarious posts. They're
amazing.
Fantastic. So what changed there? Because you weren't doing that before.
Well, we were, we were, but again, everything is about incrementally being better, right? We got a great team there. The person who kind of is some of the mastermind behind it. Often I see him almost every day when I come in, and it's unleashing the creative ability and potential in people to say, okay, let's maybe try to be a little bleeding edge. Okay, a little scary, but let's go with it. And I'll tell you why. More than just being funny, social media plays an incredibly important role for us because we have, by our size, the largest social media across all of our platform following of any airport in the country.
Oh,
right?
bravo.
So that allows us to get our message out. So when really serious things, storm information, closures, any of the things that we need to get out to our public, we have an immediate platform that we can amplify those messages. So yeah, we try to keep it funny, and you gotta be able to shift the way that you connect to people. If it's just boring airport stuff or boring airport CEO talking, who cares, right? So we keep it funny, we keep it relevant, and that's the magic of it.
It's fantastic. If you had a magic wand and you didn't have to answer to anybody, because we all know everybody's got to answer to somebody, right? What would you change? What would you wave your magic wand and change?
If I had a magic wand, I would really, really change how we move people around this region. I think as amazing as Tampa Bay is, it is world-class level. But the only thing that I think that is stopping us from really, really just being at the top in every almost indicating category is our ability to connect people. And the reason why it matters at the airport is we're going to, as I said, have 10 million people coming through that airport pretty soon. Tampa Bay as a region is going to have almost another million people coming through here in the next 10 years. If we can't get them through our roadways or get people to the airport or to our port or all those other places that they want to go, people generally vote with their feet. So if I had a magic wand in my role, I would bippity boppity boop, and all of a sudden we would have an incredibly multi modality, robust transportation network.
Well, if I had my magic wand, I'd be on Star Trek. Beam me up, because
Yes.
that's what I'm waiting for. Michael, I can't thank you enough for being my guest today on Connecting with Kim. If you're just joining us now, you'll have to go back and watch the entire interview because it's going to be fantastic, and you're going to learn a lot. But my guest in the chair today was Michael Stevens, who is the CEO of Tampa International Airport, the most loved airport in the United States and maybe the world. But thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Kim. I enjoyed it tremendously. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you and your entire team. And thank you for having me today.
Oh, thank you. We are recording this just before the holidays start. So I'm going to take this opportunity as I sign off to say thank you to my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, who always provides me the most wonderful gear to wear on the show. And they provide safe spaces and empowering services for survivors of domestic violence and their children. And they do a great job. They've been doing it for almost 50 years. And I want you to support their boutique and thrift store, which is located at 4415 West Osborne in Tampa, which is very near the airport, just off Air Cargo Road. I go there a lot, so I know. And I want to thank you so much for your support this season 4. This is a great way to wrap it up. And I want to wish you all Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, Happy Kwanzaa. Whatever you celebrate, I'm there for you, because we should all be spreading the peace and love to each other. Amen. So long.